Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Morning.
Morning still.
It's almost there.
4 minutes.
Antonio, as a coach, when the team comes off the kind of game that we saw on Sunday, are you curious of what the reaction is going to be, and do you have a sense of what your team's reaction is?
We're ready to work. New week, 24-hour rule. You move on, you watch the film on Monday, and it's a new week, another opportunity.
You mentioned making decisions. Have you made decisions?
Yeah, it's in-house.
I think coaches, players, everyone talks about the 24-hour rule all the time, right? But is it harder sometimes than other times?
Yeah, that's to be honest. Yeah, it is. But it's early in the season, week 3. There's no panic button. We're not throwing out our parachutes and jumping off the plane. We're good. It was a loss. It was a tough loss, and we move on.
AP, when you make personnel decisions, do you leave that primarily up to your coordinators, or how does that work? I'm thinking about specifically JPJ goes in for Dylan and not over for Cody. Is that a Luke decision? Is that how does that work?
Everybody. There's more thought into that. It'll show probably this week.
Coach, how was the meeting with the player? I know you can't share too much, but did it go well? You felt like you
It's
guys?
a meeting between the coaches and the players, like we always do on Monday.
Coach, to have someone like Christian who came out and spoke about how important that 24-hour rule was, and most importantly, spoke about their mind game being like strong, especially after a loss like that. How important is it to have someone like him, being new to the team, to be able to share that with the younger?
You want more of that, right? You want more guys speaking like that. We always talk about mental toughness. You always hear coaches talking about adversity and opportunity and character and all those key words. That's me talking. It's different when it comes from a player. When when it resonates in the locker room, when it resonates in the meeting room, when it resonates in the practice. So, obviously for him to step up, that's huge. And it's not even about being a newcomer. He's a pro. He's a pro's pro. And the more of those guys you can have that can handle grown man decisions and grown man ass whoopings, the better you'll be as a team.
You mentioned before about how the defense performs when 98's not at his very best and he's a little hobbled. Is that a big challenge that you put out to the team this week?
Yeah, we knew that going into last week. But at the end of the day, man, listen. Max gives everything he has. He's done that each and every week. Since I've been here, as I watched when I was watching from afar, you can never question, his passion, his desire, and his will to win for the Raiders organization. That just needs to be matched amongst the rest of the team and the defense. And I think this is, another week for a great opportunity for guys to step up with Max, and we'll see what happens.
What did you see from Tyree Wilson last week, and what's the next step for Tyree?
Just again, reps. He just hasn't played a lot of football. Here 1 week, not here the next week for 2 weeks, and we get him back, limited reps. So it'd be really good. Practice is really good for him. The more practice reps you can get for him, the more he's comfortable in the game, the more he sees it. It's muscle memory and it's also visual memory, right? So the more he sees that, the better he'll become and the better player he'll be.
When it comes to the run game, is it more changing the scheme? Is it more just practicing what you already do, getting them better at what they do, or do you actually look at the scheme itself?
Yeah, well, you always got to start the scheme and how you're coaching and how you're coaching the technique throughout the week. And what are you showing the players? Are you hitting the top 3 runs, top 5 runs? Are you showing everything that they do, right? At the end of the day, most teams don't have a plethora of runs, right? There's a handful of runs, and that going into the game, which you need to stop. Now, there's adjustments that need to be made because schematically you might say, look, this is a better front versus or coverage to bring a safety down or bring a pressure. But I think it goes into a little bit of both when you ask that question. It's scheme, it's technique, it's players, and there's adjustments.
How would you, Antonio, describe that growth, that learning curve then, going from the power to mostly the zone this year?
Say it one more time.
How would you describe that learning curve going from the change this year?
Yeah, we're watching it firsthand. You guys are seeing it, right? It's a learning curve, and we're still going through the process. And at the end of the day, you can be a scheme team, you can be a player-driven team, you can be what works team, and we need to become what works for the Raiders.
AP, I'd like to follow up on a question I asked you Monday about attacking offense, and you referenced going down the field, but specifically when you look at third down situations, if it's 3rd and 5, throwing it 3 yards, 2 yards, would you like to see them go more past the sticks when they're trying to attack?
That's a little bit of execution too. We're not drawing too many plays where we're short of sticks, so you call a play, you got to execute it as well.
Okay.
A little bit of both.
Thank you.
Last week you said Thursday was one of the best practices you had, and then Sunday happened. Will you know before Sunday if this team is locked in and you'll see a different team this Sunday than you did last Sunday, or will you have to wait till this Sunday?
I did. I said it, and everybody in the building felt it on Thursday, so I'm not going to go back against my words. It really was. There wasn't no balls on the ground. It was clean execution. The speed was up, the tempo, the energy, the execution. We got the looks. There wasn't a lot of draw off the play to make it work. We compete on Thursdays with our scout team, so There wasn't no gimmies. Friday was a good day. Saturday was a good day. Sunday was a bad day. You know.
So will you know this week before Sunday?
I won't make any predictions like I did last week. I promise you that. Leave that alone.
When you look at Isaiah Polino and his preparation and being able to step into the role with Marcus steps out, what can you say to him as a player and his level of confidence in doing so?
Yeah, I think over the last 3 years or so now for him, he's played over 200 plus snaps on defense, played a lot as a rookie, at a lot of different positions. We moved him around, and last year did the same thing. Filled in. I remember the first game where we had him in a package against Miami Dolphins. First play of the second half, he intercepted the ball, and he's been around the ball quite a bit. Really good special teams player, and he's really been that third safety for us. So there's been roles for him, either hasn't shown up in the game or in practice that we've repped a lot. So we feel very confident, to be honest, with Isaiah. Thought he was ready to take the next step this year anyway, but we really felt good with Marcus Epps and Trayvon that, okay, we got 2 solid starters there. Now, obviously, with the injury with Marcus, next man up mentality, but again, there's no flinching, no blinking. Really feel confident about what Isaiah can do going forward and looking forward to him today in practice.
How much does that hurt with Marcus being out because he did so much communicating?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, right? That's a good point because he did. You got Spill up there in the front 7, Isaiah. So really, between Trayvon and Isaiah, those 2 gentlemen have to step up. I'm not going to throw it all on Isaiah. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that to Trayvon either. I think mutually, though, they need to have their own and own their role on what they need to communicate.
When you look at film, what do you see from Deshaun Watson, and how do you think your defense can properly, execute a game plan and tackle?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to judge on how he's played, but I've seen some really good throws last week out there on the perimeter, both to Amari Cooper. The deep ball's there. Obviously, the ability to scramble, to run, to extend the plays, that's something we're going to have to work on again this week. No different than against like a Lamar Jackson type, a guy that can move in the pocket. But listen, he's played a lot of football, and when he's on, he's on. You saw that in Jacksonville. And then late in the game, obviously, against the Cowboys, when they needed to come back and he was moving the ball and moving the chains. So he's somebody that's a threat. You got to respect in the National Football League that at any given moment he can make plays.
Just curious on Divine Diablo and Sunday's game. Is he on track to be able to get back to practice?
He won't practice today.
I think you mentioned, obviously last week you felt you had good practices. From your experience as a player, what goes into translating that to game day?
On game day, right, if you think about it, come Saturday, you're just putting those little final touches on it as a coaching staff. You give it to players. You got a meeting for about an hour and a half that night. The hay's in the barn, right? It's the players go play and the coaches, make the calls and make the adjustments. I think like all of us, I felt that game after the first drive. Like this is not how we expected it, and it was a little shock, and I think it shocked all of us. And then the thing that I talked about, just the way we responded wasn't up to par. So. Again, trying not to make predictions on how we go throughout the week, because if I told you the truth, Baltimore was a bad week. So I was like, that ain't a good game, but I can't say that. So I'm not going to go this way either way. So listen, man, my thing is make sure I do a better job of delivering the message Saturday night and then Sunday before the team goes on the field of what we need to do and how we need to play and the style of play to execute for 60 minutes.
You mentioned
you're going to build on last season's chemistry and spirit of core, and part of that chemistry I thought was you working with Champ Kelly from a GM standpoint. I'm wondering, has that had any impact this season? You not having that relationship that you had last year with the GM, that from the outside it seemed like you guys really could.
Give me the initial question though. Like, what do you say? Me and Scott's gonna get along?
I'm just wondering what impact it's had not having Champ there after you guys seem to be clicking.
Oh no, I talk to Champ every day. To be honest, I talk to Champ every day. I talk to Celeste every day. I talk to everybody in the personnel department every day. And I talk to everybody in the building every day if I see you. So there's no lack of communication, lack of chemistry or anything like that. No, we're fine. I mean, we all have our roles, and you got to play your role.
You had mentioned physical practices potentially this week. How do you balance that with, needing to be ready and healthy on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, last week I did that. We walked through last week. We did 2 walkthroughs instead of practicing, no pads. Then we go out there on Thursday and we had shells on and run around with helmets and t-shirts and stuff like that. But, it was already on schedule for us to go. I mean, this is the team that we felt coming into it when we looked at our schedule. They run the ball. They do a really good job running the ball. They're physical. They give you a lot of different looks. The head coach is a really good offensive coordinator. He does a hell of a job putting together. Him and Ken Dorsey. So, this was a week anyway. We have pads on. And I really judge it off our health. If we're healthy enough to go out there and put pads on, we'll do it. If we're not, then we don't. And last week we just felt with the travel, being nicked up in certain positions, we can get more reps and more opportunities having those gentlemen walk through.
Quick question, Antonio, about JPJ. After watching his film, do you feel like he did enough to earn more time?
Yes, he did.
Is there an update on Thayer Mumford and his health?
He won't practice today.
You preparing as a Miles Garrett play?
He plays for the Cleveland Browns.
What jumps out when you watch Miles Garrett on film?
What I see?
Yeah.
Scary. He's a good player. He was player of the year, right? Like, really good football player. Like, it's impressive. You watched a couple of those runs against the Giants last week, and he is just wrecking shop. Like, it's two guys on him, it doesn't matter. You know, they chip him, doesn't matter. Run away from him, he chases it down. So, I mean, you know, we see this every day with Max. We hardly ever see that, like this effort and this physicality from another player. So, obviously, all hands on deck, and we need multiple hands on him. But a really good player. Ultimate respect for how he plays the game. He does a lot for their team. He gets them going. He's a disruptor. He's a game wrecker.
If Mumford can't go this week, how much confidence do you have in DJ plays based off what you saw?
I thought DJ did a really good job. I know he gave up a sack, but for the most part, he's going up against Clowney, who's a guy who's the number one pick and has a career of making tackles look bad. And I thought, for the most part, for not getting all the reps in week of practice, especially like a young guy, I go back to what we saw in training camp. Somebody that just, when you threw him in, just, okay, DJ's in. It was one of those moments, even in some key calls in the game where we had a run game called and they were doing stunts, and he didn't get those reps, and he reacted perfectly to it. So, extremely confident. Listen, we were itching to get him in the game at some point. It was going to happen last week. It just happened because Mumford got injured.
Last one for me for Cameron Richardson. I know that he's been, with the hamstring. Is he on track to?
No. He probably won't play this weekend.
All right, we talked on Monday. We asked about the quarterback situation. You said there was conversations that you still were going to have.
No, I think what I said, I need to give with the players and evaluate the film. So there's no issue. Gardner Mitchell's the quarterback.
All right, you're right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, AP.